And we are back with another predictions video after the first exhilarating week of European football. You know how these work by now. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you enjoy this series. Let's get straight into it. Starting off with last week's predictions. I said it was the hardest week of predictions so far, and that's pretty much what it turned out to be. Those are my predictions. These are the actual scores. And yeah, starting off with the Tottenham game. I think the red card had some effect on it, but Crystal Palace looked really, really good and were fully deserved of their 3-0 win. 1 point for the Arsenal game. Would have liked to see Arsenal score again, but yeah, they're still struggling a little bit. 1-0 Brighton in the 90th minute. Would have been nice to get a point from that game, but I'm struggling to call Brighton. I don't think I've got an accurate Brighton prediction yet, so hopefully I can get them right this week. City Leicester. I said it could go either way. I said it'd be a 1 goal in it. It was 1 goal in it. It did go to Man City, so no points for that. Jesse Lingard took away my 3 points for Manchester United Newcastle. I was really pleased with how I predicted that game until that. And let's be honest, that's not the only time Jesse Lingard cost me this week. But the less said about the young boys, the better. 1 point for the Southampton-West Ham game. Really thought that would be a high-scoring game, but 2 very good defensive displays. Ended in that being 0-0. Wolves winning away at Watford, breaking their duck. I said they might break their duck. I said they'd definitely score. Watford were very, very poor in that game, and well done for Wolves for getting their first points of the season. 3 points for Chelsea-Aston Villa, although it was not the most convincing Chelsea performance. I feel the 3-0 flattered them, and then that was again reflected by their only 1-0 win against Zenit in the Champions League. Another red card and a horrific injury for Harvey Elliott in the Liverpool game meant that from that point onwards, Leeds were never really going to score. I got the 3 right for Liverpool. It's a shame I couldn't get the 1 for Leeds, so 1 point there. And finally, a very, very good game in terms of like goal scoring quality in the Everton-Burnley game. 3-1 there, 1 point for that game, meaning that we got a game week score of 8 and a season score so far of 24. Now then, moving on to this week's predictions. I see this being another pretty tough week to call. There's a lot of fixtures in here that could go either way again, but I think this one's going to be a little bit more balanced. We're going to kick off with tonight's game. That's Newcastle against Leeds. It looks like Callum Wilson's still going to be out injured. Newcastle put in a really, really good performance against Man United. I think the 4-1 scoreline was a bit harsh on them, if I'm being honest. However, they do look very, very susceptible once they do concede that initial goal. I see Leeds getting an early goal in this game, to be honest, and I do see Leeds coming away with the win. So I'm going to go for 2-1 Leeds there. Wolves against Brentford is another tricky one. I think after last week's performance, Wolves seem to have turned the corner, and I'm still not convinced by Brentford. I know they've put in some good performances so far this season, but I'm still not convinced by Brentford. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Wolves win once again. Burnley-Arsenal, I'm going to put straight out there right away. I'm calling that as my first 0-0 of the season. I just don't see either team scoring. I don't know why. I don't think Burnley have enough going forward to challenge Arsenal's defence that looked pretty good last week. Yes, it was only Norwich, but Arsenal looked pretty good defensively there. And in the same breath, Burnley are a good team defensively. It took some real quality goals for Everton to score against them. They're going to be back at home. And I don't see Arsenal scoring either. I'm calling that 0-0. Liverpool against Crystal Palace is another interesting one. As we just spoke about from last week's results, Crystal Palace are going to be full of confidence. I'm very interested to see how Vieira approaches this game at Anfield. Is he going to be as aggressive as he was against Spurs? Maybe. I'd like to see it. I think it'd make the game a lot more interesting. However, I still see Liverpool just having too much quality for that Crystal Palace team. I think they'll put up a good fight, but I'm going to go 3-1 to Liverpool. No surprises in what I'm going to go for Man City Southampton. Yes, Southampton put in that great defensive display against West Ham, but I think City are just another level above for them. And especially at home, once they get that first goal, they seem to run away with it. So I'm just going to go 4-0 Man City. Sorry, Southampton fans. Norwich and Watford is a big relegation match. It was a game that got a lot of goals in the Championship last season. From what I've seen of both teams at the start of this season, and with it being at Carrow Road, I just think Norwich will edge this. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Norwich. Aston Villa Everton is another one that I could see going in any of the three directions. It looks like the Argentinians could be back, but how sharp they'll be after essentially having 3 weeks without football, I don't know. Everton have been probably the surprise package of the Premier League so far this season, putting together some really good results, goals from players that you wouldn't expect to be doing as well as they were doing. I wouldn't be surprised if Everton won this. However, I am going to make this my 2-2 prediction for this week. As I've already spoken about, I cannot seem to call a Brighton game correctly. I said at the start of my season's prediction video that I think Brighton are going to do really well this year. Again, I can see this going any of the three ways. Leicester rested players against Napoli last night and it ended up costing them in the end. But I just see them edging this one. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Leicester. But again, could go any which way. Speaking of a game that could go any which way, West Ham Man United. Once again, it's a team that are going to be full of confidence after their Europa League win last night against a really good Dynamo team. The addition of Kurt Zouma really seemed to bolster their defence. I think it's going to be a real struggle for Manchester United to get the result. And after their young boys' performance, they're going to be under serious, serious pressure. West Ham is always a team that Manchester United struggle against as well. If I wasn't wearing my bias hat, I would probably put this as a 1-1, maybe another 2-2 draw. But I'm going to give Ollie the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to back the boys to bring out the performance that they need. And I'm just going to edge it 2-1 to Manchester United. Finally, Tottenham against Chelsea. Now, I've just had a funny feeling on Tottenham all week. Like I said, 3-0 against Aston Villa really flattered Chelsea. And they were poor against Zenit and were very lucky to come away with the 1-0 win. A great goal from Lukaku, but there were definite chances for Zenit to steal that game away. However, with Tottenham obviously losing 3-0 to Crystal Palace, putting in a pretty poor performance last night against Rennes, and it looks like Kane's form is completely out the window. It looks like Son's not going to be fit, and it looks like Lucas and Bergwijn have picked up injuries in last night's game. As much as I think Spurs could pull off the result here, I just don't see them having the attacking threat that they need to break down this Chelsea team now. I don't think it'll be easy for Chelsea. I think Tottenham will still make this one difficult, but as I've just said, with the lack of attacking firepower it looks like Spurs are going to have, I'm going to give this one to Chelsea and call it 2-0. And so that's it. As I said, like, share and subscribe. Put down in the comments how you got on last week, and don't forget to put your predictions in the comments. Always nice to see how other people see things differently to me. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon.